My name is Tomica Lindsey, and I'm currently serving as the Public Policy Chair for the Queen City Metropolitan Chapter of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. I'm so excited to be with you today and hope that you will enjoy this replay. Just a quick tutorial about our three branches of government and why it is so important to know this information, why we need to pay attention, especially on the heels of an upcoming very important and impactful presidential election. So let's get started. When we're talking about the three branches of government, many of you may know this information, but we'll just do a quick review. We have the legislative branch, we have the executive branch, and we have the judicial branch. So starting off with the legislative branch, who makes the laws? Where do laws come from? What is a law? When you think about a law, you have to think about an idea. So there may be a problem that we're trying to fix from a political perspective. There may be something that a person introduces that needs to be changed. So the legislative branch really handles the part of making the bills or taking the ideas to suggestions and to written form so that the governing body can decide if this truly can go forward in the legislative branches. And as you can see, legislative branch is responsible for making laws, and it's made up in the Senate and the House of Representatives. So we know that those are our elected officials, and they really are the ones who handle bringing an idea into a bill and then bringing it to the president for signing. And so as a segue to the executive branch, the president of the United States is truly the person, along with the vice president and the president's cabinet, is responsible for the executive branch. And so you have the legislative, they deal with the laws. The executive branch is the next piece of the branch puzzle. And it truly involves the president, the vice president, and again, the president's cabinet, who is responsible for really executing or being the executive of or carrying out the laws that were enacted from the Senate and the House of Representatives. So then you have the third branch, which is the judicial branch. And we hear a lot about the judicial branch when it comes to who decides, who makes who takes the laws and who interprets the laws, and who truly brings the law to make sure that the governing body of all three branches truly is interpreting the law according to the Constitution. So you have the judicial branch, which is made up of judges, and they're responsible for interpreting the laws that make up the requirements that the executive and the legislative branches came up with. So the Supreme Court is the most notable judicial branch, but you also have to remember that state and local governments have branches, and judicial judges have judges as well. So these are all on the federal level, but you remember that your state and local government also has similar branches that we need to pay attention to. So what happens with all of these branches, it's what's called a checks and balances, or a person or a governing body who makes sure that not one but all of the branches of government truly run the way that they're supposed to. And the thread that runs through all of the branches, it's what's called the Constitution. So you may know these terms, or some of them may seem more familiar to you. But when you think about what this country is founded on, the democracy, the founding fathers who created what's called the U.S. Constitution, there is a requirement and a responsibility that we all have to govern ourselves accordingly. That is a term that we all know and we all love, but there's a certain way to carry out what needs to happen from a legislative policy, and certainly checks and balances, what needs to happen throughout this country to make sure that the country runs smoothly. When you think about who decides, so we just talked about the legislative, the executive, the judicial. Who decides it's determined by the federal level, which we just talked about. So the executive branch with the House of Representatives and the Senate, they decide federal law. So when you think about disasters that happen and you hear about FEMA, they're the governing body that helps to create opportunities for a lot of people to get assistance. So you think about federal laws in that regard. When you think about state and local laws, those are the ones that really truly apply to us. So what laws are happening within your state? What is required that you follow in your particular state? that makes you responsible for adhering to that political climate that's within your state. And we're, of course, in the great state of North Carolina. So there are specific laws that we as citizens of North Carolina have to follow. That makes us vary by state because each state has a different set of rules that apply to their particular law. So you may think about what happens in Florida or in Georgia or in Texas, even, where we know that there's a lot of legislation that's coming out that is pretty divisive. Does North Carolina have those same laws? So that's why it's important for you to know what your state has and what laws are within your state to make sure that you are up on what's happening within North Carolina. Then there are laws that happen within your particular city or your town. So many of us live in the city of Waxhaw or the county of Union County or Mecklenburg County or some of the other surrounding counties within the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. Those laws that happen within your county, thinking about what happens on the school board or what happens with a particular city tax within your particular county or county tax, or maybe what happens with your local library. Those are some of the areas that you really should pay attention to, maybe your local sheriff's office, because those laws, when you have those mid-year elections, not the presidential election, but when you have those mid-year elections where a lot of people don't necessarily participate, that's when you have the laws that will really govern what happens to you and your family within your specific county and within your specific city of North Carolina. So you really should pay attention to those elections because those are the ones that are really important and they matter most about what happens to you directly. Sometimes there are joint decisions where you have one or more branches of government who may make a decision. So again, knowing the three separate branches of government, knowing that there is federal law and there's state law and there's even county laws or county procedures or legislation that passes, all of these pieces are what we really need to pay attention to and know so that we can be more informed voters and so that we can truly exercise our vote within all of the upcoming elections. So this was a quick snippet of why we should vote, because the legislative branches, the judicial branches, the executive branch are certainly ones that govern how we move about in this state and govern how we move about in our county and in our cities. So you want to make sure that you are informed and that you know who the candidates are who are running. So we know a presidential election is coming up next year. We know that the House and Senate elections are in between years, but you need to know who's running. What are their positions? What are they standing for? Is it in contrast with what you stand for, what you believe? And as QCMC, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, we stand for Black women. We stand for Black girls. We want to make sure that our voices are heard. We want to make sure that the issues that are important to us when it comes to women's health and when it comes to equal pay and when it comes to economic empowerment, when it comes to civic engagement, when it comes to all of the things that matter most to Black women and girls, we're there, we're listening. Medicaid expansion is big for our seniors. So these are issues that we are truly ears to the ground. We are staying engaged, and we want to make sure that you as an individual voter are staying engaged and informed as well. So with today's update, this was the reason why we are doing this for the entire month of April, and we will continue, but we're doing it in video form and voiceover so that you can get information quickly. You can know where to find more information, and you can also understand where to connect with us and stay connected. So on our Facebook page, it is at Queen City Metropolitan Chapter of 100 Black Women. You can see it at the bottom. And our Instagram is NCBWQCMC. So please stay connected with us. Join us on next week where we will talk about voting in Black history, because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to why is voting so important to the Black community? Why do we need to make sure that everyone who is voting eligible makes that vote count? These are things that we need to talk about. And I look forward to seeing you back here on the 15th of April. Thanks so much for your time today. Be sure to come to our website. Make sure that you are finding out who your elected officials are. Are you registered to vote? Have you fallen off? You want to make sure that that information is well known so that you do not lose your right to vote. our website, ncbw-qcmc.org. I am Tomica Lindsey. I've had a blast with you these few minutes on today. Have a great day, great week, great month, and stay informed. See you soon.